So today's episode, we welcome Alexis Knaack, account executive at Paylocity out of the greater Chicago area. So Alexis, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Jared. Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time. And for our listeners and viewers, could you take a few minutes to tell us about the Paylocity platform?
Yeah, for sure. I'll start just a little bit of my background. So I've been here at Paylocity in the Chicagoland area for almost 8 years.
Okay.
So Paylocity has been around since 1997. So always been located in the Chicagoland area, but kind of outgrown a few offices. So moved around to a couple different suburbs, but we've grown from a little under 1,000 employees before we were public in 2013 to now we're at almost 5,000 employees.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, steadily growing. And I think I mentioned this to you at some point in a prior conversation, but we've actually hired a little over 1,000 people in the past year. So through the pandemic. So I think that's just a testament to our software and our clients' need for this type of software. So, as headcounts are even decreasing, the need for software a lot of times is increasing to kind of streamline some of those processes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're a payroll, human capital management software organization, I guess is the most concise way to describe who Paylocity is. But another way I like to explain it is we help HR professionals, business owners, finance professionals to manage their employees all the way from pre-hire in the recruitment process to offboarding, retirement, whatever you want to call it. So the full life cycle of the employees, they can use our software to communicate with those employees, to bring them on board, to train them, and kind of everything in between.
I really love that term, human capital. Because when people look at their businesses, right, they tend to think of capital just in the cash side of the business. But when you look at your greatest resource, I am thoroughly convinced that it's the people that make the business, and people are your greatest resource. So I really, really love that term, human capital, and how it's used in that frame.
No, we would agree.
Talked about the platform itself, and I don't think a lot of people realize how much Chicago and the greater Chicagoland area is really involved in more tech in these startup platforms. I mean, it's becoming stronger and stronger. There's a lot of contacts I have just within Chicagoland area that are always developing new and innovative different platforms. And you've seen some people here on the show like Jacobson and like that, but there's a lot just up and coming. I mean, a lot of the tech space moved out of California and has made its way to the Midwest, and Chicago is a very strong player. So I am not surprised that, Paylocity and platforms like that are coming out of this area. And Paylocity is a testament to that, history and where it's going as well. So looking at the actual platform itself and knowing business owners, one thing that's very front of mind right now is if I'm going to invest in a platform, right, and I'm gonna bring on my employees, I want something that's going to be easy to use. It's going to be, something that's going to be supported well. And I know, all the different platforms say the same thing in that regard. They all say they're supported well. Could you give us just, a couple for instances or in different ways that the Paylocity platform is supported well and how they deliver that value to the owners?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question. So our service model is a dedicated account manager. So that is very, very different from a lot of others in our space. And if you're in the Chicagoland area, your account manager will be in Schaumburg, where our corporate headquarters is located. I have clients on the West Coast. We have a Boise location there, and on the East Coast, we have a Florida location. So kind of covering all the time zones. But that dedicated point of contact is there whenever you need them, whenever you have a question. You're not going to be waiting on hold to talk to someone. You call in and you're going to get someone in under 20 seconds, and they know your account, you know them, they're not going to be asking them a million different questions and being passed around to a bunch of different people, in a call center or anything like that. So it's an actual person. And then I'll be also sort of your backup quarterback, as a client here internally. So as we bring new clients on, we're actually taking on all the heavy lifting to get their solution set up. So not a lot of heavy lifting on the part of the business owner because we're going to stand all that up for you. So our implementation consultants will get all your information from your prior system, or if you're handling it in-house, they'll do like basically a data extraction, all of that information, build it in the system for you, have weekly checkpoint calls with you while working it up, so that everything's right, the wages are balancing, all the employee information is correct. And then once you're through implementation and all of that is set up, you'll have your dedicated account manager that's there to answer any questions for you once the system is built. But hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, for the owners that are out there who are considering a payroll platform like Paylocity or something very similar, a lot of them usually have the same questions as what I heard is, you know, where do I start? Is it when I get my first employee, my first full-time head, or is it, you know, when I get number 5? You know, where exactly should I start implementing a tool like this, right? And I think that's kind of one of the unknowns. What are your thoughts on it from your perspective?
So from my perspective, it's dependent on the business owner's skill set and how comfortable they are with it. If they have any prior HR experience, compliance experience, because there is, you know, even with 5 employees, there is a lot of tax compliance liabilities that you're taking on and things to worry about. So it's how much bandwidth do you have and how much experience do you have, the comfortability that you have. So we have clients with 1 employee, and you know, we have clients with hundreds and thousands of employees. So not all of our solutions either are built, you know, one size fits all. So my client that has 1 employee that's just a business owner that wants their tax liabilities taken off, we handle that very differently than a multi-thousand employee company that probably needs a more robust solution. But that's part of the conversations that I have with these business owners and HR professionals is, where are you today? What do your needs look like? And we'll work with you and kind of customize, and we can grow with you too. So if you start growing, that's a good thing to keep in mind too, right? If you start small and then you need to add on other solutions later, or your needs evolve, we can do the same thing. You're not going to have to upgrade to a new software platform. It's all one software. So it's, hopefully that answers the question, but it's in between, and they can grow with us as well. So
scalability is really important, because me being a small business owner myself and you know, just seeing where we go, one of the pain points is, you know, IT is now like a great skill set for a lot of business owners. Having to pivot and implement a new solution along the way, it can tax the business, right? It can put it in a different position, and you really don't want that delay. So having a platform that's scalable is definitely a value, right? And based on what you're telling me, it has Paylocity is definitely a platform that can scale with the business.
Yeah, and to your earlier question, just something that's user friendly and that's not going to take a lot of time to train a new employee on, and that you're making sure that your partner has resources already built to take that burden off of the employer as well. So we do have training within the software that you can launch directly out on a full facet of, you know, COVID and compliance, but also Paylocity product training, so that if you do have a new hire, you're not having to kind of stand that all up on your own, that we can actually provide that training as well.
And resources is very front of mind for a lot of businesses right now, as a lot of people struggle to bring on help and hire people in. So as a business owner, right, your own time is super valuable. So for you to be actually doing a lot of this work to set up and maintain a system, one, it's got to be very user friendly. It's got to be very easy to use. But you may rely on the expertise of the company as well. I mean, because you really want to focus on running your business. So
yeah, exactly. And using a software like Paylocity that automates a lot of the tasks that you as a business owner may be doing manually today, whether it's keeping track of paper files and running people down for things, when you could just, you know, click of a button and send them something and save it in an electronic file. You know, keeping records of OSHA tracking incidents or anything, you know, that's in separate systems. I think that's the biggest thing that I find that I'm solving that problem for in any size business, is consolidating multiple systems, multiple disconnected systems, and consolidating it into one place, so that the person, whether HR, finance, business owner, is not having to track all of those things in
Right.
multiple systems. So that's a big piece to it as well.
Sure. And, you know, whether any business owners brought on their first employee and ever had to do payroll themselves probably understands this more than others, right? Is it because, like, as you plan to grow a business, this is one of the things you want to be thinking about, because it can be extremely complex when you start dealing with the workers' comp piece, the different insurance aspects, the tax aspect, right? You could spend a lot of time on this. So you want to look at the solutions that are out there, like Paylocity, to offload that and to, one, get it right the first time, so you're not going back and having to double back and recreate the wheel.
Yeah, and just simple, collecting of tax documents through onboarding, right? When you're bringing on a new employee, what does your onboarding process look like today? Are they sitting down in the office on day one, filling out all the paperwork, and then you have to go back and manually key it all into the system?
Right.
Or are they actually being sent, and they're wasting their first day on the job doing that as a new hire? Not a great new hire experience either.
No.
They're not, meeting the team, they're not on the floor. So if you can have the ability to send that to them before their first day, they can complete it on their phone, they can complete it on their home computer, get all that squared away so that when they show up to work, they're actually meeting the new team and starting their first day of work versus spending time alone in an office handling all of that.
Doing the things that you should be doing, right? Instead of like the paperwork, chasing. It's that
and
first day can set the tone, right?
Yeah, and then the business owner is able to focus on higher priorities rather than keying that person's information into the system. It's already there. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about consolidating different platforms into one place. And I know when you and I sat down before, you guys went over a great overview of Paylocity with me. You showed me the LMS aspect, and I thought that was super powerful. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So LMS is our learning management system. So essentially what that is it's a training platform built within the same system as Paylocity. So the same system that employees will be, logging into on a daily basis to clock in or check their pay stubs or request time off is the same system that they will be picking up any trainings that they have directly through the platform. So they can complete those on their mobile phone. They can complete those on a computer within the facility if it's easy enough, but it's customizable in the sense that you as an employer can use the Paylocity created courses that we have 500 plus standard courses that are already built within the system that we're always adding to. They can use all of our courses. They can also build their own. So I know in a lot of industries, manufacturing especially, there's specific courses that they maybe someone is creating that on the floor already. They can just record that and then they can launch that out as a pre-recorded training. They can actually record who has completed it and track all of that. But high level, this is what our LMS solution looks like. So you'll see all of our categories here of pre-created courses on the left-hand side. So everything ranging from coronavirus resources to diversity and inclusion training, working remotely, workplace inclusion, and workplace safety is really big as well.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll include all of the compliance courses that are mandatory per state. So of course, Illinois has mandatory sexual harassment training. So we've already pre-created all of these courses for our clients, and they're in here and able to launch to all employees. You can create quizzes at the end to make sure that the employees are actually absorbing the information. And then you can even create your own courses. So you can record your own screen as simple as, showing a new employee how to make an update in, the ERP system. If you have that accessible on your computer, you can actually record your screen, launch it out that way. I use our screen recorder all the time for a variety of different reasons. You can upload different videos if you have a separate system that you have videos created that are downloadable. You can launch them through this platform. It's really nice just because it's, again, in the same software that the employees are used to logging into. And they can even get a push notification on their mobile app that they have a training to complete.
Sure.
If they don't have email or email reminders. You can add those quizzes, and you can even create ongoing learning courses. So an employer could create their own, essentially a training program right within the solution.
The value of that is tremendous, especially for a smaller business or new business that is just starting out. Because I mean, I do know businesses out there that still, for their sexual harassment training like that, they bring in a consultant every year, right? And they do the training in-house, and they have to pay for that, and they have to sign off. Whereas here you've got not only the training, and it's consistent because it's, you know, always there and available. It's the same training. You've got evidence that people took the training, so you've got your records in place. So just that compliance piece alone is extremely valuable, you know, for a lot of businesses, and you know, easily put a dollar value on, because you can just look at your invoice last year from your consultant, kind of compare that to what you're going to pay for a platform like this, right?
Yeah, 100%. And not to mention what you'd pay if you're not in compliance and you get audited.
That's a great point.
Something happens. Yeah,
it does happen. It does happen. And the safety piece as well, right? We deal a lot with manufacturing businesses.
Right.
And the safety piece is one area I find a lot of businesses tend to kind of goes in ebb and flow, right? And it's inconsistent because typically they're bringing in, you know, consultants, and they try and do something that's very tailored to the business. But a lot of times they could really get by with more of a standalone, you know, type of training.
Standardized.
Something standardized. And then, you know, if you still need to bring in the consultant to do some very specific stuff, you can do that, but record them. And
I was going to say record it once and then reuse it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, get their permission first. You know, that's always important. Don't record people without them knowing. But definitely.
Or a lot of my clients in the manufacturing space will have an actual employee or a manager on the floor. They'll just record them and then use that recording and post it. You know,
that works. Yeah, that works as well. Actually, we do a lot of training work with different clients, and it's a common ask, right? Because they want the consistency, they want to keep up, and they want to better their employees. But a lot of times logistically, it's just not that easy. So if you can nail it the first time and you can record it and you can put it up on a platform like this, I think that's the important thing for people to take away here, is that the Paylocity platform is more than just a payroll app, right? There's a lot more embedded into it. So definitely somebody reaching out to you and to getting a demo into all of its capabilities is extremely important, I think, for them to understand what the value is, right?
Yeah, of course. Agreed.
So how many different account managers, or how many people are available for people to reach out to, like, across the nation here? I mean, how big is
about 500 of us?
500, okay.
Yeah.
And you serve primarily the greater Chicago area. I know you've traveled a lot with it though, so.
Yeah, I do. I cover mostly, I call it the greater O'Hare area. So Bensonville, Schiller Park, Franklin Park, Niles, Park Ridge, all over there. Yeah. But I do have clients in many states and all, kind of all over Illinois. So I work a lot with benefits brokers and financial advisors as well that I partner with their clients. So they have clients all over the place too.
Right.
So, yeah.
And the other thing to think about is this, you know, all this data is private, right? It's secure. Because I think that's the other thing people think about too, is you're dealing with people data. It's very personal. You know, I want to make sure whoever I use, that it's a very secure and a very, you know, robust platform. And I think with the scalability you guys have gone through, the scaling over the last couple of years, you guys can easily demonstrate those capabilities for people. So.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I can provide the full staff reports and anything anyone needs from our security team, but I do know our encryption is higher than most banking websites. So I believe it's double most banking apps and websites. Yes. Really? We are very, very strict on security. I myself, as a Paylocity employee, get a security training through our LMS once a week. You know, we do have a lot of private data, so it's very important that we're keeping up to date from an employee standpoint. Obviously, our security team is handling it on the back end, but on the front end of our account managers and people that have access to data that's being sent, that we need to be trained on proper procedures as well. So So I think you and I also have talked about this in the past, in the sense that we are a bit different than a traditional PEO organization, in the sense
Right.
that we will not physically replace that HR functionary within a company. So we're not actually providing, an HR generalist to be on site there or anything of that nature. But what we do offer is support for business owners or HR professionals. So above and beyond just your account manager that can help you with your Paylocity solution, you will have access to, they are HR generalists, but they're just not going to be on site with you, but you can call them if you have questions on something that happened with an employee and you're not sure how to handle it, or a very specific, especially this past year, a lot of compliance has changed every other week. So if you have questions on things like that, you can call them, you can chat them. We also have a full website that we call Paylocity Education and Knowledge. It's sort of I like to call it a Google within Paylocity. So our tax teams, our compliance teams are updating that every single day, with not just Paylocity focused updates, but actual things that are going on in the world. So if you have any questions, you can literally search it in there like Google and it will pop up resources, links, videos. I mean, I love it because I like to learn that way personally. I like to go on and read and watch videos. So some of my clients prefer that, some prefer to pick up the phone. So you have options if you have questions on kind of HR compliance.
If you look close enough, you can see it everywhere. The thing that moves the world. It's not a mental thing or an experience thing. It's a heart thing. The thing that makes Paylocity more than a technology company, but a people company. It's the source of our strength and the thing that sets us apart. For us, it's about care. It's being open to the outside world and knowing how it affects us inside. It's more than opening our hearts to others. It's engaging others in real ways. It can be simple things, sharing stories and laughing at jokes. It can also be really hard things, like changing the way we work and finding new ways to engage with each other. It's the way we act, the way we think. It's how we care every day. It's what we've always done. It's more than managing HR and payroll. It's about people. We're about evolving company cultures and moving toward a more connected workplace. That's why it's personal. That's why we care. It's how we'll move forward together. Paylocity. Forward together.
Now, we're big fans of video in general, actually. So we, this past year, on top of hiring, the thousands of employees that we hired, we have acquired 2 companies. So one is called VidGrid. So they are a video platform. And before they actually became part of Paylocity, we used their video engine software within our LMS. So we were using it the whole time before we decided to actually make their team part of the Paylocity team. So now what we've done is taken that video capability and put it across the suite. So in onboarding, in recruiting, in all of these other places in the platform, in our community platform, above and beyond just training. So you'll see that as obviously a huge need as a lot of companies have gone remote in the past year as well. And then Same Page is newer. That will be more of a task manager within the platform. So right now we have, I think I've told you about this as well, but we call it community. So it's basically an internal Facebook-esque communication tool within the HRIS platform. And that's very unique to us as well. I have not seen anyone else in the space with anything like it, and it comes with the core platform. But I have a lot of my manufacturing clients really love community because they can push out messages to employees that either don't have access to email or just not like sitting at a computer at their desk on their email all day. If they need to get them an important message out, they can just push it through this community platform. They can get a notification on their phone, go right to the mobile app, see a video from the CEO, see, if there's an emergency announcement, don't go to this part of the plant, something's going on, whatever it is, don't come in today, whatever it might be. So that has become very popular. I think increased by our usage by about 300% over the last year.
You and I have talked a lot about that in the past. This whole, we know everybody's going to this hybrid model, right? There's people on site, there's people remote, and it's changing all the time, right? I mean, may not be the same people all the time. So having a platform where you can push out these notifications, engage everybody in your organization, and you're separating that strata, right? It used to be before that you had this chain of command hierarchy that you had to report up through or get messages down through. And so the fact that you can go direct from CEO to every single person in the organization, or mid-manager to every person in the organization, it's extremely efficient, one, but two, it kind of defines a new norm of things, right? In this society we're living in today. So.
Yeah, and I do get feedback on that piece you were talking about too, kind of bridging a lot of these manufacturing organizations. They have an office staff and they have a floor staff, and they felt before like they were not able to communicate the same way to everyone, and it kind of caused a divide. And now that they can use the same communication tool, they can connect different people that never were connected before and kind of put them, on the same plane. So it's pretty cool.
Well, and that whole transparency is becoming more and more necessary, right? For companies to be competitive. And in today's world, especially manufacturing, supply chain, we've talked about it quite a bit, but to me, the company, your own internal company, is just a microcosm of a greater, macroeconomic environment. But using tools like this, and they're readily accessible. That's the thing. I think a lot of people maybe think in their mind that, for these high-end tools, you've got to pay an arm and a leg to do that and to get it. Whereas, if they actually just sat down and actually looked at the platform with you and you showed them how these things work, they would understand it's in arm's reach and it's really not as expensive as they thought it would be.
Yeah, no, not at all. Again, and that, especially that specific community piece, it's just built right into the core. If they have, payroll, they have community. So right.
Well, that's interesting. You said it's a very Facebook-esque type of platform. So, I mean, is there like, I think Facebook-esque, is there like likes and
there's likes,
and like the emoji type,
there's emojis, there's, the GIFs or Giphies or whatever they're calling it now. Yeah.
Interesting. You got the chat function. That's just a very interactive piece to it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's customized too. If you're not comfortable with people commenting or you want to restrict that, you certainly can do that as well. Sure. And if you want to use it more purely as an announcement and dial back on the collaboration until you're comfortable with it, you can do that as well. But
and it's interesting, I see it as well, and I'm sure you do too. It's like, because a lot of the people who are like owners of businesses tend to be a little bit older, right? A little bit more mature, maybe not as comfortable with the technology, right? And here you've got this workforce coming up that's very comfortable with technology. They love this.
They need it. They want it. Yeah.
Exactly. So you got millennials, Gen Zs coming here, and you got people like, myself and older that are like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm ready to use these types of platforms. So having resources.
What's your point about, about recruiting and retaining the talent nowadays? It is things like this that you have to do or look into to, set yourself apart in the competitive landscape that's out there right now.
And it all starts with onboarding from that day one, like you talked about. Do you want to put somebody in a room filling out paper and then you got somebody else translating that paper into the system? But if you can bring somebody in, you can have them punch in all their own information very quickly in a very friendly interface, and you can get them out doing what they're supposed to do or what you hired them to do. That sends a very clear message to them about the company. And, and that's where employee engagement starts, right? I mean, there's a lot of work to it. I think a lot of companies still struggle to get past and beyond that whole employee engagements party planning committee type stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I hate to reference The Office, but it is very true in a lot of companies still. I
love The Office.
Yeah, it's a great show. But yeah, employee engagement is much more than that, and there's a great tool for that, right?
Yeah, and even before onboarding, even in recruiting, right? So we have a recruiting tool as well that can link to 20,000 plus different job boards. So if a company is
Wow.
already posting on Monster, Indeed, wherever they're Craigslist, I mean, wherever they're posting jobs, it will aggregate all of those jobs into one portal page for the administrator. So again, just eliminating 10 different job sites that they have to look at on a daily basis. They can just check this one job site for all of their applicants, communicate with the applicants through that portal, and then save all that information and just click it to onboarding.
Sure.
So that it's already in onboarding when they start.
And there's a lot of companies out there actually outsource a lot of their hiring because they don't realize tools like this exist.
Yeah, exactly.
If you knew as an owner operator and you've got an HR person that you work closely with, in your organization, if you knew you had a tool like this that could make it so much easier, you'd probably keep a lot of that internally and you'd save a lot of money in that regard. Plus,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
money you're paying to a staffing agency, you can translate that to your own employees or even keep it as capital within the company. So there's a lot of value to that, definitely. There was a lot to unpack, a little bit ago when you were talking about that you guys acquired VidGrid and you guys acquired SamePage, right? Because being on the edge of technology, being on the cutting edge is important. And you guys have realized that. But you look at the ability to share information in different forms is extremely important. It tells me that you guys really understand how people interact and people learn, because I'm a big advocate, and you and I have talked about this in the past, that people learn in different ways. So
Exactly.
you need a platform that can approach people not only from a visual or from a more involved kinesthetic way, or an audio way. You need to attack it from all that. Let's talk about, like, if an owner operator wants to get started today.
Okay.
What does that journey look like with Paylocity?
Yeah. So first and foremost, you'd reach out, have a conversation with either myself or, if you're in a different state, likely someone local to you.
Okay.
But essentially it's a conversation where we just want to understand what your business looks like today, what you're doing today, what your processes are. So really do a deep dive to understand what you like that you're doing today and where you see maybe opportunity for some change. And then as a consultant, we can really plug in the Paylocity solutions to show you in a product demonstration where we think we may be able to streamline some of those processes, take some things off of your plate. So typically it starts with a conversation, usually leads into an actual demonstration of the solution where we're showing you specifically what it would look like being used in your organization, specific use cases. Then if that, catches your interest, if it looks good, if you think it would make sense, we would move on to reviewing the pricing structure, reviewing what an actual implementation would look like, kind of what we talked about earlier, gathering your data, getting it set up, what your ideal, time frame is in order to stand that solution up. Usually, I connect my potential clients with my current clients so they can get a feel for what we're actually like, what our service model is like, and understand. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Essentially, a conversation, showing you the demo, and then hopefully explaining why and how we can solve some of the issues or fill in some of the gaps.
So if I'm a business owner looking at this, can you give kind of like a feel for the range of pricing, right? Or, how is the pricing based? Is this a, per user subscription type of model, or, what can they kind of think of this platform pricing model as?
Yeah, so essentially you hit the nail on the head. It's a true software as a service model. So like most software platforms, we bill not, per payroll that you run. We're not going to charge you a bunch of ancillaries. It's truly per employee per month. So it's always the number of employees you have times your per employee cost, which is based on what solutions you will be using with us. So that's part of the consultative process. If you're have very, very basic needs and you don't yet need a full learning management suite because you have one employee, that will fluctuate up or down, obviously, what that per employee cost is. But essentially number of employees times that cost gives you your monthly fee. And then typically there'll be a small implementation fee to get the product implemented on our end, stood up and built. I mean, it's a couple $1,000s at most, sometimes a couple $100 for the implementation
Sure.
piece. I mean, it's not going to be, you know, some of the big software companies out there, you know, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars in implementation. That's not going to be a big
Right.
So a little
And
there, but
as far as integration, I think we talked a little bit about integration before.
yes.
And does Paylocity integrate with other platforms?
We do. Yeah, we have a very strong stance on the power of integration as a positive thing. We architected our system specifically to have an open API, meaning we can and will work on integration with essentially any other platform that wants to do the same with us is the easiest way to explain it. So currently we have hundreds of standing existing integrations with benefit carriers, you know, United Healthcare, Blue Cross, Aetna, Aflac, I mean, you know, all those on the benefit side. And then on the flip side of the retirement record keeping platforms, Principal, Transamerica, Voya, all, you know, hundreds and hundreds of those. So that streamlines a lot. And then going above and beyond that, even to general ledger platforms or ERP platforms, accounting platforms, we can customize general ledger integration and mapping. So we do that for almost every client. We have a general ledger team that will actually build out the specific mapping to the general ledger. So yes, very customizable in terms of integrations. And I even have clients, you know, who maybe already have another third party for benefit administration, for as an example, you know, an employee navigator or something of the sort, and they don't want to give it up. You know, they really like that. You don't have to use ours if you choose not to. We can integrate with a platform like that as well.
Interesting. So as far as talking to, you know, the greater audience out there, what are the big differentiators that you would say? Like if you had to narrow it down to a couple of items, what are the big differentiators for Paylocity versus the other platforms out there?
Yeah, I usually say there's top three. One we just covered is integration. So I'll knock that one out first. The ability to integrate with any other system and our open API is a big differentiator. The second is just our technology. So Paylocity product owners develop all of our software here in-house. So we don't go purchase an entire company and then just bolt it onto the payroll. So in terms of like the VidGrid integration, we acquired VidGrid as a company, but our product owners actually took the code of their videos and then built it into our product. So a little bit of a distinction there, but I mention it because a lot of other payroll and HCM companies out there have a very different model than Paylocity does. They acquire smaller companies, payroll companies, and time and labor companies, and whatever it is, and they try to kind of like piece it together to their platform, and then really it creates a disjointed system that doesn't truly speak to the single employee record. So we do have one single employee record for all of our solutions, including, you know, time and labor as a good example. And the second is service. So we have a 97% client retention rate since we've been in business in 1997, which I think is absolutely incredible.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah, especially in this industry. I think the industry, you know, average is about like 70-80% maybe. So our service model and just our people here, the leadership that we have, the people that we hire, I think is a big reason why our clients stick around too.
Those are definitely differentiators. And yeah, I mean, that's a significant delta between 70%, 75% even, and 97%. I think that speaks to the power of the platform and, you know, to people like yourself working there. So if somebody wanted to get started on a journey, going down the path of evaluating platforms and looking at Paylocity, who do they reach out to? Is it best to reach out via the website? Is it better to connect with you on LinkedIn and you connect them with the right person? How would they go about that?
Yeah, I would love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. So I'm happy to have them reach out to me via LinkedIn, via email, via phone. I can give you my contact information.
Yep.
But yeah, that would probably be the easiest way and get you in touch with the right person.
Relative to performance,
Yeah, I mean, I
what
think
are the things?
this also ties into, the war for talent, if you will, and the need to keep good employees, right? Making sure that you're not losing your good employees
Right.
and that employees are being heard. So to your point earlier about, the millennials coming into the workforce and the need
Mhm.
for a bit more constant feedback and the annual performance review we are seeing really is either being done away with or just not necessarily being done in the best way, because it's very hard to remember someone's performance from the entire past year.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when that annual review rolls around, you're just thinking about, what happened over the last month.
Right.
and then it's maybe nothing is even documented from the past year. So
Sure.
what we've done is created a tool within our performance management that we call journals. So
Okay.
journals are essentially a way to track micro conversations throughout the entire year between either an employee and a manager. An employee can keep journals on themselves and keep it private. A manager can create a journal about an employee and not share it with the employee, maybe just share it with another manager. They can be used for one-on-one conversations. We have templates even for, performance plans or a written warning if you're needing to track things of that nature. So it just really helps give more feedback on a more consistent basis and changes the cadence and encourages managers even to have more constant conversations with employees.
I love that, and I have an interesting story relative
Okay.
to that. One of my past managers at a company that I worked at, he had a yellow notepad, legal notepad, that he had for every single one of his employees, myself included. And he would write down, notes from our conversations, and he put it in his file drawer. And it was interesting because, like, he's one of the few managers that come review time, he had very specific items
ready.
to speak to. And it's a practice that I've picked up and I've used myself afterwards, and it's very effective. I love the fact that you're taking and digitizing that and you're putting it into a platform that
Yeah.
has it, because it goes beyond just, having a better review with your employee or with your manager even, right? Being able to give that feedback yourself. But I think there's an element that people undervalue of calibrating your organization on doing reviews, performance management the same way. Right? And I think a lot of organizations, they say they do performance management, but to the point of, is everybody calibrated and consistent, right?
That's the thing, right? It's creating a templatization for all of the managers so that as a business owner or an HR professional, you can make that consistent review across your entire organization, even on one-on-one check-ins, so that everyone is on the same level playing field. Yeah.
There's a huge value to that. I mean, I've seen it in organizations where this department over here, now scale from 1 to 10, everybody's getting 10s and everybody, is walking on water, right? And then over here, you've got this other manager who's doing, his thing, and everybody's maybe a maximum of a 3 or 4, right? And that can be very difficult for employees to deal with because people talk, right? And they do kind of share this stuff.
Yeah.
And it comes out and they're like, why did so-and-so get a 10 and I got a 4, right? I mean, when your perception of the work you're providing is maybe more than the other person.
You just made me think of something else that I need to show you that we have. I don't know if I showed you this in the past, but it's our analytics dashboard. Yeah, what this does is allows for either managers or, really, oftentimes it is business owners that are looking for access to this type of data on their organization. So if you think about it, if you're using, an HRIS system, we are able to pull in all of the information on all of your employees from every single part of the system, right? So we can tell what your turnover looks like. We can tell your demographic makeup of your organization. So obviously that's very big right now, needing to measure, but labor costs. We can drill into your overtime trends, even what managers are approving more overtime. Maybe you need to have a conversation with a specific manager what division has more overtime. And then what we were just talking about, in terms of employees talking and risk of employees leaving, our retention risk dashboard is probably one of my favorite things. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing here. What this is doing is actually aggregating data from all throughout the system. So the performance reviews, their compensation model, it can even tell if they're looking at other jobs online so that they may be at risk to leave. Yeah, so essentially what this is doing is giving you an alert that maybe one of your best employees might be at risk for leaving, and it may be an opportunity to have a conversation with that employee. So I'll kind of drill down into what the risk factors actually are that it's pulling. So these are all risk factors that we got from SHRM in terms of what would, make an employee potentially leave the organization. So, they've had a compensation raise, they haven't had one in 3 years, and their coworker has one every single merit cycle, and they talk about it, but they've gotten 5 stars on their reviews and they haven't gotten a merit increase, or their manager has changed 10 times since they've been hired. Things like that can really affect how happy the employee is. Can even tell how far that they're driving to work, their quality of life, like their distance to work, how much overtime they're working. So lots and lots of data points.
That is super valuable. I mean, when we talk about employee retention, from the predictive index side, we talk about the 4 different dysfunctions that drive people to look beyond their current job. But this gives you some actionable data. I love it. This is pretty powerful stuff right here. In my history experience quite a bit, where the person running the organization has to go to somebody in a department and ask for them to pull reports or to pull things together and give them to them. And there's a delay to that, right? And sometimes they may not even get the information at all. With this type of platform, you as the business owner can go in, you can have that data readily available at your fingertips.
Yeah, exactly. Right in those dashboards, and even from a reporting standpoint. And you don't have to ask someone for the report. You can get the report yourself. You can edit the report within the system, just a simple drag and drop editor. So my clients love the reporting functionality as well.
And that piece on the employee retention, to have that visible in front of you versus a gut feel of a manager of who's looking, or who's maybe not happy. That's extremely powerful, because, I always talk to, clients about, obviously, who your A players are, who your B players are, C and D. You may have taken the time to map them out. This already has done that for you. Okay, so that's done. That's out of the way. You know who your A players are. You want to keep your A's. You want to groom your B's and C's. And obviously, if people are down at the bottom end, you can make some decisions to deal with that, because eventually you want to move everybody up to that higher level if you can. And this is an actionable piece to do that. I love it.
Yeah, you can even do succession planning within the platform.
That's an underrated tool as well. I think a lot of people out there, if you say the 2 word succession planning, you'll probably get a different answer from every person you ask out there right now. There's very few people I see that are aligned on what it really means. And, back to the employees starting on day 1, when they come in your organization, if you're able to give somebody a very clear path of what it takes.
They're going to stay there more long-term if they can actually visualize their future at the organization.
And we see that in machine shops predominantly, in manufacturing. That has been shown to be one of the clear factors for retaining talent in the machine shop.
They know where they're going. They know what the next step is. They have goals that they're trying to achieve to get there.
Somebody's really good at running a certain machine. Your Haas over there, that's a problem to run. You got one guy who runs it really well. What happens? Well, that guy gets pigeonholed, or that person gets pigeonholed, and they end up staying there, and they're out on the floor for years and years. And they may get lots of overtime, but eventually the dollars kind of wear off as the motivation, right? Especially with this younger generation coming. You might have some kids that are really, really good at picking up the technical side of it and programming and stuff. And you want to retain those kids, right? Or those people. So you bring them in. If you give them a very, very clear path for how to get to that next level, they're more apt to stay. And we see that it's, we haven't captured it data wise, but I've talked to enough machine shop owners and people who work in the machine shop industry. We can tell you who's doing succession planning, who's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think about my own experience at Paylocity. I mean, I basically came here as my very first job, like
Right.
real world job out of college. But
Yep.
they told me from day one, here's like your path, here's what you have to do
Sure.
to get to the next step. I was like, all right, I'm never gonna leave, and I still feel
Right.
that way. So yeah, it
That's
really does work.
excellent. You guys are using your own tools. Your people. That's I love that. You got to be your own best customer in that regard. So
Yeah, we say drinking our own wine. That's what we call it.
drinking your own wine, drink your own Kool-Aid. I like those terms.
We make Paylocity wine, so I do give my clients Paylocity wine too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Alexis, is there anything else that we did not cover that you think is important for people to know out there?
No, I think we probably hit on almost everything. Of course, if anyone has questions or wants to see a deeper dive, I would love to connect with anyone. And I really thank you for your time, Jared, and appreciate the conversation.
This is a great conversation. I could talk about this stuff all day. So I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with us and sharing for the listeners and viewers. And I really hope that people check it out and get in touch with you, because these are powerful platforms that can change your business short-term, long-term, and there's a platform that scales with it. So it's something that's going to be with you your entire journey. And if you're an owner operator who wants to really retire and use your business as a retirement tool, you've got to have systems like this in place. You have to.
It's a very good point. Yeah.
Additional links discussed can be found in the comments section below on YouTube. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you found the information useful. OPSQC Inc. podcast, sponsored by Paylocity.